Good evening and welcome to the Hearthstone Half Hour this weekend. And this weekend, even at the beginning of this week, I do apologise, it has been a long Monday. My name's Hammy from felcraft.org, and today we're going to be jumping straight in and having a look at some new player basics again. Last episode, episode 16, we jumped into the concept of how you can try and think ahead when playing card games or Hearthstone. So it's that delicate balance between knowing enough about your opponent's deck and your opponent's hero and what they might play, and keeping that balanced against the idea that you're playing a deck and you've got your own hero, your own game plan, and you need to keep that moving. In card games, it's very, very easy to either plough on with your own strategy in your own deck and not pay enough attention to your opponent, or you can absolutely go the other way and be so on tenterhooks to see what your opponent's next move is that by the time you've got to the middle late game you've been reacting to them all the time rather than trying to push on with your own strategy. So in terms of thinking a turn ahead, last episode we played some Priest Ladder. I'm just going to jump straight into game now, and our Priest Ladder, let's get my overlay up, there we go. Our Ladder Priest deck took a couple of easy wins, for want of a better description. As a result, we think our opponents now, we played against a mage and we also played against a priest, sort of mirror matchup as it were, and both of them either had some problems drawing or probably weren't the best example. So let's jump into some more ladder games and see if we can further illustrate the new player concept of trying to think ahead a little bit. As you can see on the right side of the screen, our ladder priest deck is up there, the deck list for you to see. It's heavily based, if not downright deck ripped, from an Artosis deck list that Artosis played at BlizzCon 2013. The slight difference is that we don't have a Prophet Velen yet, and that will be a very good card to have in for several reasons. Before we go into that, we're jumping straight into a game. Our opponent is a Druid. Now, Druids are quite popular at the moment. They've certainly shown up in a few Mana Grind tournaments. The Mana Grind tournament format is a little bit unusual with the ESL, but we'll save that for later. But Druids are very versatile. In terms of my priest deck, I really want to have lots of low cost cards early on. If I have a Northshire Cleric, all the better. I don't mind starting with a Light Warden. As I'm going second, none of those 5 or 6 mana cards are going to be of much use to me early in the game. I'm not going to be able to play them, they're stuffing up my hand. So when you start playing, and when you have your first hand before you even draw, take the chance to swap your cards. And my 2 6 mana cards and a 5 have been replaced by another 2 5s and a 6, so I have not had the best start here. I do fortunately have my Light Warden. So ideally what I'd be looking for there is maybe some Holy Smites, a Shadow Word Pain for 2 mana, Northshire Clerics. Now, in terms of thinking ahead, there's not too much thinking ahead or reading required here. As my Druid companion in front of us has gone first, we can see that on his second turn, we'll just quickly review his turn. Remember that you can take your time in Hearthstone. He dropped a Murloc Tidehunter, so that summoned another Murloc, which we can see on the table. He played Innovate, and that did the Druid ridiculous accelerating card, so 2 extra mana crystals for 1 turn. And then he buffed his Murloc to a 4/3 tank. Now that's very scary. The problem I have at the moment is that I can't really do anything to it. If I attack it, he's going to attack my hero. I can't heal anything. If I healed something, it would buff up this Light Warden and do a bit more attack. I can drop another Light Warden and see what happens, and maybe try and put some pressure on there. Really, that's my only option at this point in time. So we've already seen our Druid here drop some Murlocs. So in terms of thinking ahead, he's used the Druid good buffs, and there's another Murloc. We can fairly safely say that he's playing a Murloc Swarm deck here. So we'll let him pick off my minions for the time being. How do we know what he's playing? Well, the answer seems fairly obvious. He's dropped a lot of Murlocs early in the game. We can see he's got the blue Guild Warrior with Charge. There's the Grimscale Oracle that buffs all of the other Murlocs. So suddenly, we're only on turn 3, and already we're in a little bit of trouble. It's not a game loss by any means, but this Murloc Tidehunter is quite a nasty threat that we'll want to get rid of. In terms of what I can do, I've got the coin, which would let me get something out a turn earlier, but I think I'm going to save that for this Holy Nova. And the reason for that is that Murloc cards, you can see, will have pretty low health by this buffed guy. Thankfully I can do 1 damage with my Light Warden, 2 damage with my Holy Smite. So the biggest threat on the table at the moment, this 5 attack Murloc, I can remove. And then with that remaining 2 health, I can heal. There was actually a slight misplay there. I rushed that a bit. If I'd healed myself first, I could have buffed the Light Warden. He would have had 3 attack and 2 health, and then I could have used him to directly kill, leaving me 2 damage to do something else. So that misplay may actually cost me. It's deprived me from taking out this Bluegill Warrior. He's done another 5 damage to me. But this Druid deck is a really good example of quite a sort of early card friendly deck for Druids, because it's not really using many rare cards, and as you can see they're just dropping a lot of Murlocs and using the inherent Druid buffs, Mark of the Wild. That's a card you can pick up through playing through the Druid deck, and buffing up what Murlocs are quite strong at the cost of low health, and that's really making him quite nasty in the early game. So, options. I can't take out this Bluegill Warrior in 1 turn, which is quite annoying. I could pull an Abomination, but that will do damage to everyone. The Orkney Shadow Priest, if I drop him, I'm not going to be able to cast anything, and then the Bluegill Warrior will be able to take him next go. I could use it to draw another card. It's a bit of a risk. I'm going to go ahead with a Holy Nova. Now the reason I was saving that Holy Nova was to, if he drops more Murlocs, then it would kill many birds with 1 stone, 2 damage to all enemies and restoring 2 health to all friendly characters. I just want to get this Murloc off the table, if I can. Let's see what else he's got up his sleeve. More Murlocs. The advantage of a Murloc swarm deck, or if you're playing any swarm deck, is if you can stop them from killing you very early in the game, and then later in the game, you'll have the advantage. Okay, so I've managed to survive thus far. Any of these rush decks, naturally, whether it's a Warlock or a Hunter with Unleash the Hounds, or a Druid, you also get Shaman rush decks, you can even have Paladin rush decks. The Murloc Swarm deck, their concept is really getting out lots of Murlocs early on. The Murloc cards have synergy, in that a lot of them have abilities on the cards that improve other Murlocs, so the more Murlocs you play, the stronger you become. But the advantage of this is if you can hold it off early game, you can generally come back in the mid to late game. I'm going to drop my Orkney Shadow Priest, and this is quite a chunky card in this deck, because what it lets me do is any card that I have that restores health now deals damage. I'm going to drop a Shadow Word Pain, Power Word Shield. So Power Word Shield for Priest gives a minion 2 health and draws a card, so giving a minion health is not the same as healing a minion, so that's allowed me to top this card up, draw another card. Then Circle of Healing, instead of restoring 4 health, now will do 4 damage. So that allows me, although I do 4 damage to my own card, I've taken away all of his threatening minions. So as you can see there, the Orkney Shadow Soul Priest plus the Circle of Healing let me clear the deck a bit. Okay, he's going straight for it and attacking my hero. He's really keeping the pressure on. However, as a priest I can heal. So all of his Murlocs are now out the way, and this now lets me start to go on the offensive. What I do have to do though is just be slightly careful, because I'm on quite low health. I'm a priest, I can heal. In my deck I've got cards that will heal me later in the game. I don't want him being able to drop any cards with charge that will suddenly allow him, and Druids do have cards that have charge, which means that they can attack in one go. I don't want him to be able to drop any cards that suddenly put me in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to drop an Injured Blade Master, I'm going to do 2 damage, and I'm going to start getting a bit of pressure on. But do remember that as long as I have the Orkney Soul Priest on the table, my heal actually does damage, so I can't heal myself while I have the Orkney Soul Priest on the table. If I want to start healing myself with any card, I need to start finding a way to get that Orkney Soul Priest off the table. And I'm now down to 10 health. So I'm in a lot of danger still of my opponent dropping a card with charge and suddenly doing me a bunch of pain. So I need to play this a little bit carefully. The Cabal Shadow Priest I've got in instead of my Prophet Villain. You can see that I can take control of an enemy minion with 2 or less attack. I can grab that Dire Wolf and use it to my advantage. There's no real point me silencing it. I can't heal myself. I'm going to grab it. and that gives me a little bit more attack to play with. So I'm going to keep the pressure on this Druid and see what he's got up his sleeve. You may notice that the Druid as well, unless he grabs something that lets him draw cards, is quite low on cards in his hand. So he's kind of living a bit hand to mouth at the moment. It goes down a very painful card. If you have a look at that Iron Bark Protector, Druid only card. Expensive for mana in terms of 8 mana to play, but also 8 attack and 8 health, so a really good tank. But the one thing about Priests, as you can see, as I've just highlighted, Priests have got a lovely set of control options open to them as well. So my Shadow of Death for 3 mana. Any minion with 5 or more attack I can destroy, and bang. So for 8 mana. Oh, he's left. Okay, so that actually means that I've won the game. That was a quick and fortunate game. So a nice easy win at only level 16. I'm not too high up at the moment, but I'm going to try and turbo through a few more games. So without further ado, to see if we can get 3 games in this half an hour, I'm going to jump back in the queue. And let's just have a quick review of what happened in that game. I got a bit lucky, but in terms of reading ahead and trying to think a turn ahead, sometimes when you're playing Hearthstone, you're very, very tempted to play quickly, to rush through. Remember that you've got a lot of time in your turn until that little fuse, Mission Impossible style, starts running. There's no point whatsoever in rushing. Think through your options. Think through what people can actually do, what they might be trying to do, what your opponent's deck is trying to do, and above all, take a good look at your cards and think what your best play is. In that last game, I'm actually just going to go straight ahead and start with this hand. The reason being, I've got my Northshire Cleric, a Power Word Shield, which is great early in the game, and Circle of Healing. Now, sometimes playing a Northshire Cleric turn 1 is a bit of a red rag to a bull. It's tempting people when you're playing as Priest. Your opponent will see it and think, I don't want him drawing cards, and we see he plays the coin. He'll probably play a card that lets him kill that in one go. Oh no, he's dropped a Bloodfen Raptor. That will let him trade it away next game. So just before we try and finish up this game, let's review last game. It was very apparent early on that my opponent was swarming with Murlocs. As soon as I saw him drop 1 or 2 Murloc cards early on, I, in terms of reading a turn ahead or trying to play a turn ahead, knew what he was going to be trying to do. He was going to be trying to do a lot of damage to me early on, buff his Murlocs, and above all, kill me before I'd even had a chance to get going. As bad as that sounds, I knew that if I survived for the first few turns and managed to whittle his minions away and control the board, he wouldn't have much of a follow-up. And that's the thing when you play a rush deck. Generally they don't have much of a follow-up. It's kind of an all or nothing slightly when you come to sort of very quick burn decks like that. Okay, so back to this game. Dropping my Power Word Shield lets me top up nice and easy. There's actually a nice little combo I can do here. It let me draw a card. I'm actually going to attack my opponent's minion for 1. You can see that I take the damage, and then by dropping Circle of Healing, I heal my minion up to full health and get to draw another card. It is a slight challenge in terms of that Circle of Healing, but you can see that also by healing my opponent's minion, because the Northshire Cleric's ability is whenever a minion is healed, draw a card, my Circle of Healing healed both minions and I drew another 2 cards. Why do you want a card, says Dulo Crazy in the chat, that deals that much damage to itself? I take it you're referring to the Orkanai Soul Priest. I'm just going to ask in chat while we're playing. Coming to turn 3. Let's see what options I've got. He's dropped another Bloodfen Raptor. They're both 2 health. I am slightly low on the old health side at this moment in time. Ah, Injured Blade Master. Okay, I've got a question in the chat about Injured Blade Master. So the Injured Blade Master, yeah, it's got a few different play uses, this card. So why would you want to use an Injured Blade Master, a card that deals that much damage to itself? Well, yeah, he does start play with 4 attack and 3 health, but as you've just seen, with Circle of Healing, for no mana, I can instantly restore him to his full 7 health, and then if I have a Northshire Cleric on the table, by healing my own minion, I can then draw more cards. So it's not ideal, but there are some very good things I can do with him. So I can't actually do a load with him. He will be able to kill me off this turn if he wants to, but he'd have to attack with both. I don't want to lose my Northshire Cleric. I'm going to drop the Injured Blade Master. Let's see if we can get him to work out this turn. So there's a question from the chat there from Dilo Crazy, thanks very much for tuning in, was why use the Injured Blade Master? And I have just sacrificed him on that turn. The Hunter cards are starting to come out. By doing damage to himself when he's put in play, he works quite well with Priest because you can use him to then benefit yourself, as it were. By healing him you can draw more cards. Sadly in that situation he died straight away, but I didn't have a huge amount of plays I could use. So the Hunter here, because he managed to, while I was talking, deadly shot away my random minion, managed to trade away my Injured Blade Master. Not the most ideal scenario. I now have a couple of options here, and I'm going to go for the slightly riskier one and draw up the Organized Soul Priest again for that 4 mana. Not brilliant. I don't want to drop a Northshire Cleric because I need that for extra draw, and if I dropped it, he could just trade it with a Bloodfen Raptor and he could still keep his card alive. By dropping the Organized Soul Priest, it is a little bit of a challenge. 2-2 and Taunt. We can see he's going straight for the kill. And this Hunter at the moment does have a little bit of an advantage on me. I don't have quite the perfect play just now. It's a little bit of a shame. But what I can do is I can do it one way or the other. I'm going to take the risk. So 5 mana would let me just kill 1. Saving the 2 damage will let me kill the Houndmaster next go. Holy Nova is a little bit of a waste of mana in this situation, but I don't quite have the mana to reach out. If I had 1 more mana I could have killed the Houndmaster too. Now in terms of playing ahead here, this deck is a Hunter deck. It's not a massive rush deck. We might have expected an Unleash the Hounds or something similar at some point. And Unleash the Hounds gives Beast Charge and drops a bunch of extra dogs. So this Hunter isn't rushing me. At the same time, what options do I have? I think that taking out in this situation the low damage final minion is a good one. I'm left with 2 things to do some damage to me. Dropping the Northshire Cleric will probably just mean that it gets killed next go. I'm going to heal myself up and hang on in. Now it does mean I have a few mana left at the end of that go, but keeping the Northshire Cleric in hand for the time being just means that it's not just going to get killed. And me drawing cards at some point is going to be key. Nice synergy there. Note that he's in the Hunter deck dropped the Timberwolf, given all of his beasts 1 attack, and now he's got quite a painful combo there. This could cause me some issues. The Stealth Stranglethorn Tiger, of course, and this is where I wish that I'd maybe kept my Holy Nova. I would have been able to take out a lot more of his cards in one go. I'm actually in a little bit of danger here. You can see that next go he is going to do the best part of 10, 13 damage, and I'm pretty low, so two turns I'm actually gone. He can't be attacked or targeted until he deals some damage. So what can I do to reduce the amount of damage that I mean? I can pick off one of these damaging minions straight away. I can trade using my Argent Commander, that's an option. Healing myself would also be good. I don't have a huge amount of options. The Battle Cry will let me whip away 3 damage by taking away the Timberwolf. I'm going to throw down the Northshire Cleric to give him something else to think about. He's not going to kill me in one go. You can see I've got a Holy Fire in my hand. That will deal 5 damage and restore 5 damage, so if he attacks with that Stranglethorn Tiger I can pick it off next go. This Cabal Shadow Priest may or may not have been the best play. We'll soon see on this turn. It wasn't quite. He's going for the trade. It just about worked out okay. Just. So with only 11 health and 28, I've got 2 options. I've just pulled Ragnaros. Ragnaros is a phenomenal legendary. Alongside Sylvanas Windrunner. 2 that really just caused loads of problems late game if played correctly, so you can see Raggy's effect there. My decision is whether I wait and play him. Now if I wait and play him, I'll probably have a better effect. So as we mentioned last go, I'm going to use that Holy Fire to heal myself and remove a big threat on the table. And I'm just going to heal myself up for another 2 and wait. So while my opponent plays, let's have a quick look at Ragnaros. Ragnaros can't attack, so I can't attack any minions with him, but he does 8 damage a turn to a random enemy at the end of my turn. So I generally, because it's a random enemy, I generally want him doing damage to the hero. When you play Ragnaros is pretty important. If I play him at this point, when there are 3 little minions on the table, he's just as likely to kill a 1/1 boar as he is to do 8 damage to the hero. I have a few trading options here now, so I just need to think this turn through slightly carefully. I do want to get rid of the key threats on the table. The Argent Commander, very solid 6 mana card. It's been down buffed a little bit from the previous, but with Charge it can attack as soon as it's brought into play. Charge is a powerful ability in Hearthstone. And Divine Shield, which means that the first turn that he takes damage, it's ignored. So I need to think about what I'm going to remove. In terms of efficiency, I can use Shadow Word Pain, destroy a minion with 3 or less attack. That is a good priest card for control, which means I can just remove that away. 6, I can drop my Argent Commander, and with the 4/2, I've got 2 options. I can either kill the 2 damage card, or I can put some pressure on the hero right away. Now, because Hunter decks, and in terms of playing ahead, I've finally got back to the topic of this Hearthstone Half Hour, because Hunter decks tend to have a tendency to quickly drop a lot of minions and occasionally buff them, I'm going to be cautious and trade away that minion. So you can see I didn't take damage. Finally, because I've got that 1 mana left, I'm going to add 2 extra health, sorry, pardon me, and draw a card. So you can see that we're now at sort of mid to late game, because we've both got 10 mana crystals each almost on the table. I withstood quite an early barrage by just trying to make sure that I kept my opponent's minions on his side of the table. Ouch! Lots of nice control cards for hunters too. You can see that this hunter's deck is very much revolving around lots of little minions, getting them all to buff each other, keeping the pressure on, and really just trying to keep doing damage to my hero. So unless I have a way of keeping to pick off these minions, I'm in a bit of trouble here. With the Argent Commander, I can trade away the most dangerous. Certainly I can trade away 1 this turn. Ragnaros would suddenly mean that I'd start doing damage, but bear in mind I've only got 9 health left. That's a little bit dangerous. Mind Control would also be dangerous. So my best play here is to drop my Argent Commander, do an extra 2 health, and then take away 1 of the key threats. So I'm going to arbitrarily take this Shattered Sun Cleric. So it's quite touch and go here. In terms of reading ahead, all I know is that he's going to keep it, and he's traded again away there, which is interesting. Ooh, that could be a finisher. So you can see on Death Rattle that summons 2 hyenas. Now it's fortunate for me that I have Mind Control. I'm going to drop this, and unless he gets really lucky with his next card, this could be a game-winning control for me. So now I take away that Savannah Highmane from him. He's only got a 1 damage minion on the table. He does have a lot of health. He's still got the ability here to finish me off. We can see the continuous damage. He's got me down to 6, and he can kill me next turn. He's got enough on the table. Oh, I've got a good combo here. So you can see again, I've got the Orkanai Soul Priest in hand, and I've got my Circle of Healing. What that will let me do is if I drop those 2, it will wipe everything on his side of the table. Note that he's got no cards in hand either. So the first thing to do in this situation, I'm only going to be spending 5 mana, is heal myself. I need to get my health back up. I'm going to draw Orkanai Soul Priest. I'm going to Circle of Healing. And that combo may have won me the game. We'll have to see what happens here. I'm going to attack now with my newly stolen Savannah Highmane. I've got 7 health. I do have the Soul Priest on the table. If I need to heal myself, I can kill my own Soul Priest so I don't do damage. We can see that he's now top decking, keeping whiling away with that steady shot. I need to be careful I don't get steady shotted to death, but I now actually have a little advantage on the deck. So, if I want to be able to heal myself, I think the easiest thing to do is just directly... Let's think. I need to be able to heal myself this go, and I need to be able to drop Ragnaros. Okay, I got it. Sure. I need to heal myself. I need to sacrifice this Orkanai Soul Priest. I'm going to sacrifice him. Now this may feel counterintuitive, doing 6 damage when he's only got 1 health left, but it will summon the hyenas for me. That will still do damage. Then what it lets me do is heal myself for 2 and put the pressure on with Ragnaros. Now you can see, because I've dropped Ragnaros when there's nothing on the table, I'm naturally guaranteed to do damage to the enemy hero. And I needed to sacrifice that Soul Priest so I could start healing myself again. There we go. Good game. So in terms of thinking ahead in that game, we saw 2 different kinds of thinking ahead, of trying to play a turn ahead. There was me trying to, as we said at the beginning of this episode, work out exactly what kind of deck my opponent was playing, what he was trying to do, what his game plan was. And from the first 2 or 3 turns of that game, we saw rapidly that he was using a lot of cards that buffed each other. Tango, just try and, I know it's almost pushing half an hour, so we're just going to try and sneak in 1 more match. Good game, thank you very much, Dulo Crazy, for jumping into the chat today, and you guys who are streaming out there and keeping an eye, but who are not logged into Twitch. You should always grab a Twitch login, twitch.tv/Felcroftcasts, and get involved. We've got another hunter for our 3rd game. So this will be quite good in terms of thinking ahead. Maybe we'll get 2 different beg my pardon, 2 different hunter decks. So in that last game, 2 different sort of kinds of thinking ahead. One of them was us trying to take a look at the opponent's deck and thinking what he was going to do. He was taking minions that buffed each other, trying to put a lot of pressure on, and again, like that Druid deck in a way, keep pressure on my hero, but he didn't have any big finishing sort of cards that would really take me out. And the other kind of thinking ahead was micromanaging, in a way, my own cards. So because I could try and read ahead a little bit as to what my opponent was doing, that educated me as to how I could play. I knew he was trying to pressure me down. I knew that he'd keep minions coming, so I had to keep my health reasonably high whilst trying to get his minions off the table. Now, as you saw, I was quite low health by the end of that game. If I'd not taken the right decisions and healed myself at the right points, he could have killed me, even though I had better sort of card position, better tactical position at the end of the game.
Right away.
At the start of this game, you've just seen me as a quick wrap up. I drew my Northshire Cleric first turn like I like to. I got a powered shield that I managed to drop and do another card. So it's not a bad start, apart from the fact that we've seen our hunter drop an Iron Beak Owl. So in terms of trying to play a turn ahead or read ahead this game, I don't know what our hunter's up to. I don't know whether he's rushing or what he's doing. But the Iron Beak Owl, that battlecry of silencing a minion, you can see, powerful little card.
Right away.
He's effectively made my Northshire Cleric useless. There's not real much I can do with it. Healing, because its ability has been turned off by the silence, I can't heal minions and draw cards. So just jumping into the chat there. Last turn we can just quickly see he's dropped a Wolf Rider, done 3 damage to me. Now because he's got charged that Wolf Rider, he's only got 1 health. I have options here. I could use my Shadow Word Pain to destroy the card outright, but you know what, my Northshire Cleric,
Right away.
it can't actually do anything, so that's a good trade for me. I'm more than happy to let him have that. And I'm going to put the Orkanai Soul Priest down. I could have healed myself for 2, but just to give him something to think about. We've seen that deadly shot come out again from our opposing hunter. 3 mana and destroying a random minion. If I've only got 1 minion on the table, it's not too much that it's going to be apart from what I dropped. I'm going to get rid of that Leper Gnome. Now Leper Gnome, again, another very solid card. It's just another guaranteed 2 damage to the hero. I can heal that away.
Ready to ride.
So, take a look at this. We've got another good example. It's like our last Hunter deck. We see that he dropped the card with charge and then dropped 2 Abusive Sergeants, each of which gives a minion +2 attack this turn, and he did a whopping 7 damage to me with that Wolf Rider. However, you can see now why I pack Holy Novas in my deck. Holy Nova, 2 damage. Goodbye. And that is the reason that this priest deck has Holy Nova. It gives you an AoE ability, Area of Effect, and lets you take out decks like this that swarm quite a bit. Hunter Secret, and it really reminds me that's a new new player basics show that we're going to do, dealing with secrets in all their forms. But suffice to say, a Hunter's dropped a secret. I do not know what that Hunter Secret is going to be. But the thing is with secrets is that you can easily either take a look in the My Collection section of the deck, or you can, in fact, just do a Google. Now, Hunter Secrets, some of them trigger if I do damage to the enemy hero. Some of them trigger when an enemy minion attacks. Some of them trigger when I play a minion. So I need to remember those kind of 3 situations, or 4 actually. It might trigger if I attack him. It might trigger if I attack one of his minions. It might trigger if I play a minion. So it could trigger pretty much whatever I do. But you can work out what it is from what you need to do. So I don't fancy this Leper Gnome doing another 2 damage to me. But what I can do is I can just mind control that minion. And again, the Cable Shadow Priest really helps there. So I've nicked that off him and held him up for another turn. Cool. So we nicked the Leper Gnome off him, and we can see that he used tracking. Look at the top 3 cards of his deck. Drew 1 and discarded the other cards. So he's really fishing for some draw. I don't know what the secret is, so the easy way now, the reason I mind control this Leper Gnome is I can use the Leper Gnome to attack. Now, when a character... Okay, there you go. You can see that secret was misdirection, so by stealing a minion and using it to attack the enemy, I kind of bought myself some time and didn't lose perhaps a better minion if I decided to attack. We've got 8 mana, we've got extra minions on the table, we've got a few options. The Spellbreaker in my hand I'm not going to drop because I like to keep that silence in case a big tank or something comes out. The Abomination really is a card that I drop. Dealing 2 damage when he dies to all characters is, again, if I don't have a Holy Nova, it deals with lots of small health minions on the board. So in terms of 8, I'm going to Holy Fire, bit of a no-lose situation, and then I'm going to heal up my minion, and then I'm going to attack with my minion, just keep that pressure on. Thank you for your patience. I've been a little bit quiet during some of these turns, just answering a few questions in the chat. Always lovely to have people tuning in live on Twitch. And we've seen another secret drop by our Hunter friend. Who knows what it could be this time. Last time we saw one misdirection. When a character attacks your hero, instead he attacks another random character. So if this guy's got a couple of misdirections, I would probably want to, if I was going to attack the enemy hero, attack with a low attack character. And the reason for that would be that if misdirection did trigger, I wouldn't do too much damage to my own minions. So that's always a good thing. You don't want to be doing a load of damage to yourself, if at all possible. The other way I can get around that is I can just immediately try and attack with this minion. And it's another misdirection. He's going to actually attack my hero. Ooh, that's not so good. So it would have probably been better for me to drop my Blade Master in that situation. Okay. I'll drop an injured Blade Master. I'm not in huge danger on the table at this moment, so I'm actually going to take this opportunity to heal my hero from that damage I just suffered. And take another go. So in terms of playing around secrets, I kind of semi-second guessed he might have another misdirection, but I made not the greatest play. If I dropped a Blade Master for 3 mana and then tried to trigger misdirect, he might have killed my Blade Master, he might have still done damage to my priest. And another hidden secret. from this hunter. Kill command. 5 damage. No, because he's got a beast on the table. He's keeping the pressure on. So even though this hunter's been a little bit slow, it's kind of neck and neck. I'm actually just got to be a little bit careful. My health is not huge. So I've got to make sure I keep that pressure on and make sure that I'm not running into too many problems with these secrets. For that very good reason. I'm actually going to make sure that I firstly get rid of that dangerous minion there. Secondly, I'm going to heal up my injured Blade Master just a little, and the reason for that is because if this is a card that causes me some trouble, we've already seen 2 misdirections, so I've played minions, no damage has been done, so it's not a snipe. A snipe is another hunter secret. When an opponent plays a minion, deal 4 damage. When one of your minions is attacked, summon 3 snakes. It's another snake trap secret. The last one is explosive trap. When your hero is attacked, do 2 damage to all enemies or freezing trap. So I'm guessing this is going to be an explosive trap or a freezing trap. It's an explosive trap. So you can see that by a process of elimination there, I managed to work out what secret it was likely to be. Now, as it turns out, I can Holy Neighbour, do some damage, heal up my minions, put some more pressure on, and end my turn. Now there are, I believe, 5 off the top of my head. Yep, there are 5 hunter secrets. Now you saw the first of those, misdirection, and a third, concede. Good game. Now the interesting thing there, woohoo, rank up as well. The interesting thing there in terms of playing ahead, let's just compare that to the last hunter game. In the last hunter game we saw a guy who was, or a lady who was getting a lot of small mana cost to medium mana cost cards and really using a lot of cards that buffed each other, so that they were really buffing each other's cards and attacking me with a lot of early pressure. We saw similar in this game. We saw the 2 abusive sergeants dropped on top of the charging Wolf Rider to do 7 damage on one go. But what we also saw was the use of traps and the use of secrets. Now remember, of course, that mages, paladins and hunters all have secrets, and we saw a little bit in terms of playing ahead and thinking ahead how to try and avoid them. So in terms of looking at our opponent's deck, we knew he had secrets. We saw that he'd played 2 misdirections. One of those I played okay, one of those I kind of misplayed slightly perhaps, and then by a process of elimination with that last secret we actually saw that it could only be 2 out of 5 cards, because he'd already played 2 cards. Of course you have a limit of 2 cards, identical cards per deck in Hearthstone. I'd already played a minion, so that ruled one out, and there were no minions to attack, so that ruled another of his secrets out. So by a good process of elimination with secrets and playing cards in the right order, you can work out what is going to turn up and what you might have a few challenges with, which is fabulous. So that, with a nice, it's the only time it's going to happen, so I'll enjoy it while it lasts, but with a quick 3 wins in a row, that brings us to an end, for now, of this episode of the Hearthstone Half Hour. Just before we go, and before we sign off, I'll keep chatting in the chat for a little bit afterwards, but just wanted to say thank you to you folks, a few more of you than usual. It's really good to see you tuning in live on Twitch. We'll just deal with a couple of questions that we had in the chat today. So, asked question, sad face. It's only half an hour, but I'm going to be jumping off the mic now, but I will hang around in the chat afterwards to have a bit of a chat, answer a few questions, and just generally chat a bit of Hearthstone. Really good to have people tuning in. Just before we go, let's deal with sort of a mailbag question from the chat. Julo Crazy asks, I like being aggressive, I just don't know how many cards with 2, 3 or 4 mana crystals to get. Well, really, for that kind of thing, if you like being aggressive, you need to just have a little think. For each deck it will be a little bit different. I can't sit here and say to you as a new player or a newish player, you should have loads and loads of 2 mana cards or loads and loads of 10 mana cards. Let's give you a few quick examples, just jumping into the lovely little My Collection and deck editor. So here are some random cards that I have as examples to start with. Let's have a look at a few of my decks. So this Ladder Priest deck that you've just seen, now if we mouse over and you see the mana curve, you can see in this deck, oh, it's got 8 cards, a whole 8 cards at 1 mana, and then not really a very even distribution across the rest of that deck. Now, what is the reason for me having 8 1 mana cards? Well, if you dive into it, you can actually see that as a priest, some of the cards you're going to be playing: Holy Smite lets me pick off minions, Power Word Shield lets me buff minions for health and draw cards, Light Warden, beg pardon, I'm a priest deck, I heal, so the more I heal, the more Light Warden gets stronger. And with Northshire Cleric, it's just a real core drawing card. So if I have 2 of all of those, wow, I've already got 8 1 mana cards in my deck. In terms of other decks, let's just grab something semi-competitive that I still have. Let's go done. Let's just get back one. Let's just have a quick look at it's a very rough mage deck that I've got going, so I'm not going to say that it's the greatest deck in the world. Let's have a look. Okay, so it's a semi-competitive mage deck here. Now you can see with my mage deck here, yeah, sorry. Let's jump back. I'll quickly redo Priest over again. Thank you very much in the chat. I went to my overlay. So in terms of Priest, we can see for my ladder Priest, I've got a huge amount of cards at 1 mana there on my mana curve. The reason for that is Holy Smite, Power Word Shield, Light Warden and Northshire Cleric are all key staples of certainly this kind of Priest deck. They all happen to be 1 mana. Now, not all of those let me attack early. A lot of them let me draw cards and let me get set up for later in the game. The Light Warden might let me attack early, but it depends on circumstance. So for the Priest, it just happens to be that a lot of Priest cards are useful or at low mana. Now you can see in those games that I played, I was really controlling minions, and when I was actually doing lots of damage to my opponent's hero was generally late in the game, and the cards I was using to do that damage were generally either minions that were still on the deck or Ragnaros. Ragnaros is the finisher in my deck. And then if I quickly jump out for another example, we just go back. And in my collection, we'll go to a mage deck. Now, this mage deck is a poor man's version of Mage Giants. Now, Mage Giants is an archetype that has been doing the rounds a bit. Blizzard have taken a bit of an axe to some of the mage powerful cards recently because it was felt to be slightly overpowered or certainly far too common. Now, if we have a look at the mage mana curve, and I always encourage you when you're building a deck to don't think of I need more cards with 2, 3 or 4 mana crystals, or if you look at your mana curve, think, oh, I don't have, for example, look at this mage deck, I have no card there that costs 5 mana. It's more about what is your deck trying to do, what useful cards does it need, and when does it need mana to get going. So if we look at this mage deck, I've got 8 3 mana cost cards, and the reason for that is you can see, right, if we look here, I've got Arcane Intellect at 3 mana, drawing 2 cards for 3 mana, very powerful, mages should always have it. Frost Nova, freezing minions, Ice Barrier, gaining the 8 armor for a mage secret, Ice Block, 2 strong mage secret cards there that keep a mage alive. By the time I've got 2 of those, 2 of those, 2 of those and 2 of those, very much like the Priest deck, a lot of useful mage cards just happen to fall at the 3 mana mark. So if you want to be aggressive, with the question in the chat, just have a think about your kind of deck. Have a think about what cards it can use that are class specific. So here, what class specific cards does a mage have that are useful, that fall at particular mana levels? And what is your deck's goal? So the first deck we saw, that Druid deck, it was a Murloc Swarm deck. Now, the goal of a Murloc Swarm deck is to attack early on with lots of Murlocs. All Murlocs generally cost low amounts of mana, 1, 2 or 3. So the answer to your question would be, the goal of my deck is to attack early with Murlocs. Murlocs cost low mana, therefore I need a lot of Murlocs. And it just so happens that those Murlocs cost 1, 2 and 3 mana. So if you had a look at the... I'm just going to quickly see if I've got a Murloc Swarm deck that exists for fun. Is it a Druid? Oh, there you go, there's an effort at the sort of half-assed one here. Pardon my French. So you can see that if I look at my Druid deck here, it's not the same as that first Druid deck that we played in this stream. You'd see now, wow, I've got 12 cards there that are at 2 mana. Then if you look, well, why is that the case? I've got 2 Mark of the Wild, that good Druid buff card, 2 Bluegill Warrior, 2 Direwolf Alpha that we've also seen to buff my Murlocs, 2 Knife Jugglers. If I summon a card, I deal 1 damage. Another 2 Murlocs. So you can see that, wow, when I've got 2 of all of those kind of key cards, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, already I've taken 12 cards, and that's where the big part of the 2 mana bump there of my deck comes from. But the 2 mana spike there is not because I thought I need 12 cards with 2 mana. It's because the goal of my deck just so happens to have a bunch of cards that have 2 mana in. Now, the concept of generally making sure that you've got something to play every single turn is a solid one. You wouldn't want a deck, for example, that had 20 cards in that costed 5, 6 or 7 mana, because the chances are you wouldn't be able to play anything for your first 4 turns, and your opponent would beat you up or get set up and then you'd lose. So that's a very outrageous, over-the-top example of how you do want to make sure generally that you've got something that you can play most turns. However, don't let the feeling that you need a spread of cards, as it were, across the different mana costs dictate how you build your deck. How you build your deck should be very much around what your deck goal is, and that's something we've gone through a bit in previous dailies. I'm going to have to tune out of the microphone now. It's been more than the Hearthstone half hour. I will jump into the chat a little bit just to keep chatting and answer a few more questions. Thank you very, very much for tuning in, everyone. Just as a quick sign off, we really love to see you live. This has been live on twitch.tv/Failcraftcast. If you're watching, and I can see a few of you out there, and you're not on Twitch, sign in, sign up for an account. It's free. You can sign in. You can get email reminders when we're going to go live with streams, and you can get involved, ask questions. We love to chat to you when we're playing and streaming. Really like you getting involved. And a little bit of chat as well. Other places you can catch us, if you're a new player, or whether you want to see some of our laddering or sort of ranking up, we've got a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. That's youtube.com/Failcraftcasts. You can see all previous episodes of our Hearthstone half hour. You can see some stuff that's geared towards more medium, sort of intermediate and advanced players. A lot of stuff that's friendly for sort of whether you're a new player to card games, or you're a new player to the Warcraft universe or Blizzard games or similar. Lots and lots of good stuff there. Cover a lot of concepts that we've touched on here. And places that you can still grab us as well, twitter.com/Failcraftcast. Love to tweet and have a chat there. And finally, we've got the website. You've also got some longer blog articles that sometimes go into a bit more detail, along with deck lists and similar things that we can't cover in a video. That would just be too much, but you can find that at failcraft.org. And without further ado, I shall do what I was doing initially. And above all, if you tuned in, if you've seen us on YouTube, please, any ideas, questions, topics you'd like us to cover more of, things you think we do well, things you think we can improve, please just log in, tweet, comment, like, dislike. As long as you let us know what you think we're doing well and what you think we could do better, we appreciate feedback either way. Thanks very much for tuning in. We're aiming, as always, to try and make this a 4 or 5 night a week show. Failed to do that so far, but this week we're going to see how many episodes we can get in. So thanks very much for tuning in, and catch you